I heard you guys have all come up with your topics and you've come up with your chapters or your subtopic ideas. Is that sounding where everybody is?
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to continue kind of on in our planning of getting ready to write our informational books. And we're going to keep going with the idea that we are using knowledge that we already have used before, but we're working with a new topic again. So we're going to look at our kind of our checklist for getting ready to write. We're not ready to write quite yet, but we're on our way. So our first thing that we needed to do was choose a topic. Everybody's done that. Give me a thumbs up if you have your topic and you are excited about your topic. Give me another thumbs up if you're excited about it.
Oh, what?
Excellent. Okay.
Can you do this?
So last time I was in here, thank you. Excellent. Last time I was in here, we kind of started thinking about number 2, which says think about how your writing is going to go. We needed to start making a plan, and we wanted to think about, who can remember, what were we picturing in our minds? Were we picturing, does anybody remember? When we're getting ready to be writing our informational books, do we just want to sit down and start writing?
No.
What do we need to do?
Right.
That's part of it, drafting. But even before drafting, we haven't done any drafting yet, right? What are we thinking about?
Thinking about the subtopics.
Yeah. And when we're putting all of that together, that's kind of showing us where we're wanting to go, what that finished product is going to look like, and then we're building on how we're going to get there. So the last time I was in here, we had come up with, and you guys edited these a little, so I updated them, our different chapters for, I'm writing about food, so our different chapters about food in ancient China. So number 3 says that we're going to plan a way to take notes and to jot ideas for each part. So part of what I like to do before I start taking notes, I really want to know what it is I'm going to be taking notes on. I want my notes to be really effective. I want them to be clear, and I want them to be answering the questions that I really have about my topic. I don't want to waste my time researching something that doesn't really end up falling under one of my categories, right? So even before we get to number 3, we're going to do kind of a part 2 to this second step in getting ready for our informational book. So I'm going to look at my chapters here, and I'm going to do a little bit of thinking out loud. I might have you guys help me out a little here before I send you off to do the same kind of thinking with your own topic, okay? So, thank you. I'm looking at my first chapter here, and I'm thinking about food in ancient China. What are some of my wonderings about that? What do I really want to know? Why do you think it's important to come up with some questions that you'd really want to know about that topic?
So you'll know what to research.
So you know what to research. Do you think that you should start just researching something that's not very interesting to you?
No.
Probably not. What if you don't ask yourself any questions and you start researching to find out there's not really any information there about that? We want to think about all of these things before we start our notes, before we start writing, so we don't have to go back later on, before we put too much work into it that we're not going to be able to use. So I started thinking about food in ancient China, and I started thinking, what do I really want to know? One of my questions was, what food was popular in ancient China? I just want to know, what did they eat? What did they like? So that was one of my questions. Then I was thinking, some people just eat to survive. Other cultures really are interested in their food. They bring their food into their culture, and it's a part of much more than just surviving. Yes, Tanner?
That is, some people eat to live and some people live to eat.
I really do like that quote. I'm pretty sure I'm a person that lives to eat.
Me too.
So that was another question. Did they really, were a lot of different kind of things centered around eating, or was eating just kind of part of surviving in ancient China?
I think that the emperor was like is sort of rich. He sort of like lives to eat.
I think, you know what, I want you to hold on to that idea. That's actually going to go along with some of my other questions that I came up with thinking. So I was also wondering, this kind of goes along with that, but not quite. Did food change depending on where you lived? China is huge. Were they eating all of the same foods everywhere, or were they not? That's something I would want to research. I'm not answering these questions yet. I just want to think about, what am I wanting to research? And then my last question was, how did they end up getting any new foods in China? I'm wondering, you know, from my little bit of notes and research, I don't think that they were only eating one thing for the entire time that China's been around. So I'm wondering, how did new foods get incorporated? Okay, so those are some of my wonderings about food in ancient China. What I can take from those questions is maybe how I want to, what you guys talked about earlier today, how I could take notes on some of those things, right? So let's go through. My next section was all about dumplings. Do you guys have any wonderings about dumplings, some questions that you could come up with? I want you to turn and talk for a minute with your partner, and then we'll share. See, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Who's got a good question here? Tanner.
Why do they put different types of stuffing into dumplings?
You know what? I had the same question. I don't know if I wrote that one down, but I could write it down now, and we can add that one in. Who else has a question?
Why people eat dumplings?
Yeah. Where do they come from? Why do they eat them? Different types. Okay, so some different types. How were they invented? Let's see, let's hear from 2 more people. 1, 2, go ahead. So I continued to do this, and I only had a couple of ideas and questions for these last 2. So I'm going to share those with you guys, and then I'm going to talk to you guys kind of about what I came up with, okay? So for my chapter 3, who remembers what type of writing we were going to do for chapter 3? Who have I not heard from? Go ahead.
Perspective and someone that was probably there at that period of time.
Right, so is that going to be writing that's fiction or nonfiction?
Nonfiction.
There's going to be some...
Fiction, realistic fiction. Biography.
There might be a little bit of nonfiction and a little bit of fiction in that one, right? So I wrote here, a day in the life of a dumpling maker, but that could be something I'm okay with changing. So I just said, who made food? Who was responsible for making food in families or at the palace for the emperor? Who was making the food? Whose perspectives could I be taking? And then my last chapter, why dumplings were important in ancient China. My one wondering that I had were, are dumplings a part of any traditions?
Yes.
So is that how they're important in ancient China? So this is kind of the second step, like I said, to our number 2 here, okay? Now, you guys are still in what phase of writing? Are you drafting yet, or are you still planning?
Planning.
Okay, so while we're planning, I really thought that these were going to be my chapters, and I thought I was really ready to go, start my research, take my notes. I was right on. Thought it was going to be a great book. When I started asking myself these questions, I really kind of started thinking, you know what? These chapters don't quite go along with what I'm interested in learning and what I think is important about food in ancient China. So I decided to change them and to revise while I'm still in this planning period. I just didn't feel like it was going well. I didn't feel like when I was going through to look for some notes that I was finding really good information that I could write a lot about. But I do feel like I have some really interesting questions that I want to know the answers to. So I'm going to use this still, but I'm going to rework it and continue to work on it until I feel really happy with my plan to start taking notes and then write. So I brainstormed here a little bit, and I thought, okay, food in ancient China. From my research, there's a few different things that I could include in just what the ancient Chinese ate, so I could keep that there. And then I thought, maybe in that section, I could ask my question about what the rich and the poor ate. Because maybe that doesn't really have so much to do with dumplings, it has to do with China in general. So these questions that I have here, except for this one, this new foods maybe doesn't have to do so much with that one. I'm thinking I could ask those questions and it could still be kind of an all about food in ancient China. So I'm going to, can you grab me a glue stick, please? Thank you. I made some new chapter headings, some new ideas, and I'm going to put those up there. Because if I don't feel like I really know the direction I'm going and I can really see this end result, I'm not wanting to continue with my research. I really want to feel confident in my plan before I move forward. Number 3 I'm going to skip over because I think that's one that we can look at. Not quite yet. I wanted to, because this one we could come up with a few different ideas after we do our research here. So my last one, I realized I didn't really have a question there. But I was really curious from my first chapter about how they got new foods. Does anybody know how they got new foods from their research? Tanner, what are you thinking?
I'm thinking that they got new foods because I read one of the books that ancient Chinese people used to eat noodles, and then whenever in their place they like ran out of food, they would travel to like another place to get more food.
Do you know how they traveled to another place? Does anybody know?
Walked. They rode cows.
Okay. Do you know what? There were. What were you gonna say?
Like, I think they got new food because they made festivals.
Okay.
Like one festival was over, and then the person who he fell into the river himself, but the emperor wasn't trusting him.
Oh, so you've done some research on this. When I was doing research, I found it interesting that they were getting some new foods through trade, which it sounds like you guys have read a little bit about too. Their trade came from the development of the Silk Road. Have any of you guys heard of the Silk Road? So I thought, you know what, that would be really interesting. How did they get new foods? And how did their food kind of change throughout ancient China because of trade and the Silk Road? I thought that was more about ancient China than just dumplings. I wasn't finding much information. So, this chapter 3, I'm not going to worry too much about right now. My chapters 1, 2, and 4, I really wanted to come up with strong questions and my chapter descriptions or my subtopics before I started researching. Okay? Question?
But I don't think traditions have a lot to do with food.
That might be something that you would find in your research. So what if you found that traditions didn't have a lot to do with food? What could you do? Who has an idea? Ben.
You could find a new page of food.
You could find a new subtopic?
Yeah.
Just like I did. I was finding I wasn't getting a lot of information for some of my subtopics that I chose, so I changed them. You guys are still planning. This is not set in stone. So you need to make sure that you have questions that you can drive your research, and that you have subtopics that are setting you up for success, right? So what I'm wanting you to do today, and what we're going to spend some time doing today, you guys are first going back to your tables and looking at your subtopics and asking yourself some questions. Hold on one second, I'll take questions in a minute. Okay, you're doing this independently. Should I hear chatting with table members?
Honestly,
if we're doing this independently? If it's independent, should I hear you guys talking with one another? No. So you guys, I'm giving you some time to just think right now. Do I have some good questions for my subtopics, or do I need to maybe change some things around? Okay? That's what we're going to do first. Does anybody have questions on that?
but we have partners.
I know you have partners. That'll come up after you guys work for a minute on your own. I want you thinking on your own first, and then you'll be pairing up with partners. Okay? But first, I want you all to be doing your own thinking, and then you'll get to collaborate with your partner that you're doing your research with, okay? So, before you move, I'm going to give you guys until 2:30, not 4:30, 2:30 to think on your own about some good, solid questions that are going to drive your research. And I want you to think, are your subtopics working for you, or do you need to change them? Okay? At 2:30, I will let you know what our next step will be. Okay? Go. What are you doing? You're doing food? Okay, nice.
Very much. I'm sorry when I said go job. But I would say Saturday. I'm sorry.
Okay, so these,
Before you move, listen to directions. You guys all have a partner that you are researching with, correct?
Some of them have two.
Some of you have two. That's lucky, you
Lucky,
guys.
lucky.
What I'm going to have you do before you move, listen, you are going to get together with your partner in our group and share any changes that you made or any great ideas and questions that you guys came up with that are going to help drive that research you're doing together, okay? I'm going to give you until about 2:43 to share with your group members, and I want you guys to have your chapter 1, 2, and 4 subheadings really ready to go to start taking notes on them, okay? So you can sit at a table or somewhere else in the room. I want you to be able to focus on the conversation though, okay? Does anybody have any questions before you move? Wait. Freeze. Questions? Okay, go. Different reasons for different languages. Maybe something that you think about. Alrighty, 4AS, freeze. I want everybody to, with their reader's notebook, come meet me back on the carpet and we're going to share out some ideas that we have, okay? So by 45, I want everybody on the carpet. Girls, let's go. Actually, you know what I want you guys to do? I want you to come sit on the carpet in a circle, okay? Come get on the green carpet in a circle. Boys, let's put these brown chairs back and get in a circle on the carpet, okay? Let's go quickly.
Partner.
I don't think we need the tape right now.
Oh.
Let's come sit down with our reader's notebook. Okay. There's a space right over here. You can sit down. You don't need to be with your partner. Okay, so as a wrap up for today, I would like to go around the circle and I'd like to hear one question that you came up with that you're going to use to drive your research, okay? So we can start on this side and we'll go around this way. All right, and I want everybody to be nice and respectful with listening. Please. Who invented language? Okay, go ahead. Who invented silk? How was silk invented? All right, we're going to keep going around the circle. How was rice figured out? How did they figure out to eat rice?
What festivals do they eat tangyuan?
Okay, what festivals are tangyuan involved in? All right.
Why was gunpowder useful?
Why was gunpowder useful? Okay.
How was paper invented?
How was paper invented?
Who was the, when was paper made?
When was paper made? Okay, when did paper start becoming something they use? Go ahead.
Which writing is the easiest to
Which type, like style of writing? Interesting, okay. So, sounds like I touched in base with most groups. It seems like you guys have your chapters and you have some questions for each of your chapters ready to go. So, our next step in getting ready and planning tomorrow is going to be to start taking notes. So you guys are going to be thinking now with your questions and with your subheadings, what are some good ways that you can organize your notes in order for them to be effective and efficient tomorrow, okay? Think about maybe using 1 page per note or per chapter, and then also think about having a page where you're writing down the books that you guys are using so you know where you're getting your information from. And those will be things that we remind you again about tomorrow, okay? Alrighty, go ahead and put your reader's notebooks away, and I think, what time do you normally pack up?
5.
Yeah. we
Like
usually
now-ish?
push it.
Okay, so go ahead and start cleaning up the room and packing up.
Usually about 3 o'clock, right?
Usually.
Usually about 3:05.
3:30.